Good morning, everybody. My name's Colin Barber. I'm Chairman of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to this morning's Chamber of Commerce Member Spotlight. As I say, I'm the Chairman of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce, which is a part-time voluntary role. I also run a business called The Management Mechanic, which is where I work as a business coach and trainer, specialising in the application of psychology in business. Broadly speaking, my brief is to help you understand how people work, whether they be your employees, your customers, your suppliers, basically anyone you interact with in your business. If you'd like to find out more about that, then just Google Management Mechanic. But I'm here today, as I say, as a chairman, to interview one of our members, and just today our member is Mike Hawkins from Brentwood Business Partnership. Brentwood Business Partnership is a sort of associate member of the chamber. The chamber and the Brentwood Business Partnership both work very closely together to promote the business needs of Brentwood. So I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today. This session will last about half an hour. If you have any questions you'd like to put to Mike, then feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and send any questions to me, and I'll happily put them to Mike either during the interview or at the end of the interview. Incidentally, if you don't get a chance to watch the whole of the interview today, or if you've got any colleagues who weren't able to join us, we will be uploading the webinar to the Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. And incidentally, all the previous Member Spotlight webinars are on the YouTube channel, so there's a chance for you to catch up and see some really interesting videos, and obviously get to know some of the other members of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce. Also, of course, if you're interested in promoting your business and letting the members and indeed the wider public hear more about your business, and if you'd like to participate in the Member Spotlight, then just drop me an email, info@brentwoodchamber.co.uk, and I can have a chat with you about what's involved. There's no charge, and it is actually very good publicity for your business. And as I say, the webinar is being recorded, as are all our webinars, and we should have it uploaded on the YouTube channel probably tomorrow, actually, realistically, by the time we actually get it loaded up. So thank you very much for joining us, and most importantly of all, thank you to Mike Hawkins, who's our guest today. Mike, are you there? I can see Mike just coming in. Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Welcome, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Well, thank you. Hello, Colin, and thank you very much for inviting me along today.
That's my pleasure, Mike. I've known you, I don't know, I suppose I must maybe up knocking on 10 years now. So I know a little bit about your current circumstances, and I know you lead a very active life, and I'm wondering if we're going to be able to cover everything in half an hour, because you've certainly got a lot to talk to us about, both in terms of what you do now for not just the businesses of Brentwood, but the people of Brentwood as well. But also, as in all these member spotlights, we're interested in finding out a little bit more about your background and how you came to be where you are today. And so we'll be delving into a little bit about your career and you know, how you came to become chairman of Brentwood Business Partnership. But let's just start off first of all, Mike, by asking you how long have you been in Brentwood and how you came to end up in Brentwood? Because I think you're a Welsh boy, aren't you?
Yes, I'm originally from Wales, and my wife Diane too. But we've been here for 40 years now, over 40 years. So I think, you know, we are pretty much Brentwood now. I always think that I've got Brentwood like Blackpool Rock right through the middle of me.
And do you remember, I know it's a long time ago, but do you remember what attracted you to Brentwood in the first place?
Well, it's the job, actually. I don't know if you want me to talk a little about
yeah,
career.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started off as a management trainee with British Oxygen, and I think that's BOC these days, and then Unilever. But I soon graduated to transition to banking. But I have to say, I found branch banking a little bit on the boring side. I was very glad to get involved in the world of cards, card payments. It's more interesting than it sounds, actually. But I got a job in Southend, which was running the consortium at the time called Access. And some people will remember Access. I was head of international there. It became MasterCard eventually. When the competition authorities broke up the consortium of banks that ran it, I joined NatWest and pursued the rest of my career with NatWest. In fact, I was a divisional director of NatWest on the card side, and I became chairman of MasterCard in the UK.
So were you in? Were you in when you joined Access? Was that like at the very beginning of cards when they first got launched? Was it in the 70s or 80s or?
Yes, absolutely. Actually,
Exciting times.
for those people who remember Access, I was involved right at the very start of it, and I had the job in the mid-90s of killing it off, selling the brand to MasterCard. So it's a bit ironic, really, but
The
yeah.
flexible friend, I remember.
Sorry,
The flexible friend.
Yes, I mean
Very
there are
good
a
marketing.
lot of people around today who've never heard of Access, and I was part of the intention actually that MasterCard should become the prevalent brand on that side. I also had dealings with Visa, but it was MasterCard I majored on. So that's it. That would be the highlight of my career in a sense, that I was involved in the development of credit cards. I personally, I remember the days in branch banking when people used to have to go to the bank manager and almost on bended knees beg to borrow a tenner or £20 to tide them over to their next salary day. Credit cards got rid of all that. But of course, you have to manage the credit aspect of it carefully. But I think that they've been a boon, actually. You can go anywhere in the world. You can go to Kathmandu, New York, anywhere, and the credit card is like an international currency. So I think that's useful. But I also was on the debit card side, and I was on the interbank committee, actually, that decided to introduce chip and pin.
Oh, really?
So that was a bit revolutionary. And that, of course, has mutated into, well, it's still used, chip and pin, but also contactless, and that's been rather a boon in the pandemic. So those are the highlights of my career. The challenges, well, I had to front a few competition authority attacks on the industry, and some of it successful, some of it not so successful. And I had the rather a difficult experience of having to appear before the Treasury Select Committee. Now, that is an experience I wouldn't recommend to many people, but I managed to come through it. And I love the world of business, actually, which is why post-retirement I got involved in Chamber. As you know, I was its CEO for over 10 years. I'm still on the exec committee, thanks to the partnership between Chamber and the Business Partnership. So that's really good that I've had that opportunity.
Yeah. So, Mike, just before we go on to the Chamber and the Business Partnership, I'm just going to ask you, going back to what you originally said, you worked for British Oxygen and Unilever before you moved into banking. I'm just curious because most people, as far as I know, they start their career in banking right from, you know, when they leave college or university. Did you find that having worked in the private sector for two major multinational companies, that helped you when you did start your career in banking because you had a broader outlook on how businesses run?
Well, it did. I absolutely did find that, actually, because when Access was launched, for example, they needed a national sales force to sell it into shops and persuade them that this was a good new thing to have. It seems like a century ago, but it was quite a task to do at the time. And because I'd spent a time on the Unilever sales side, you know, that came more naturally to me than it might do to the traditional bankers. And yes, you get a better perspective, I think. And I worked for about half a dozen different organizations. I wasn't sort of a banker from 16 up to 60.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure that would have helped in a broader outlook. So, so you joined the Chamber of Commerce. Was that after you retired that you joined the Chamber of Commerce? And
that was after I retired. Yes.
Yeah.
And two things happened to me that particular year. The then CEO, Frank Wildman, it was my wife actually who said to Frank, who was thinking of stepping down, I think Mike might like to take that on. So she volunteered me for it, really. And I've been thankful to her ever since, I might say. But I also became a magistrate the same year, so I embarked on another career, really, put you through the paces, becoming a magistrate. And I was that for about 10 years, and I became a bench chairman. That was an interesting time, actually.
Yeah. Was that in Brentwood or?
Well, it was Brentwood, but they'd been amalgamating the courts, and it started off in Brentwood, then it went to Grays, and then it went to Basildon. And with cuts to their budgets, they had to close down courts and consolidate them. So I ended up in Basildon, actually, and without any imputations on Basildon, there was plenty of business there.
I can imagine. Mike, we've got a very special guest watching today. I don't know if you know this, but he's just sent, it's not actually a question, it's more of a statement. Very chap that I remember very well, Roger Kelsey. He's watching us this morning, and he just sent a message, which is very nice. He says, Mike took over as Executive Secretary of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce from Frank Wildman and developed Brentwood Chamber of Commerce into the modern, forward-looking institution it is today. So there we go.
Well, that's very kind of Roger, and it's worth the case of champagne I sent him.
Ah, right. Yeah.
No.
And also, Roger probably doesn't know this, but he was chairman when I first joined the chamber. I went along with my wife to an open meeting at Mary Green Manor, and we were very impressed with the speech that Roger gave. And as a result of that, I signed up to join the chamber, and I say probably around about 10 years ago, something like that. And little known, I'd be sitting here today having a chat with you about the chamber. So,
well, it's I mean, Roger was a great chairman. I had a thoroughly good relationship with him, as I've done with all the chairmen, including yourself. I think Brentwood's been pretty lucky, actually, to have people like Roger and yourself who've been prepared to set aside time because, you know, you've got businesses of your own to run, to run chamber for the benefit of the community. One of the reasons I got involved, actually, post-retirement in these various activities was I felt I wanted to put something back into the community. I'd done a lot of international travel, and I'd done a lot of lobbying at European level and UK level. And I thought it was just as interesting locally what was going on, actually. For some people, it seems small beer, but it's not, it matters. That's where everything happens.
And what would you see as the main, I mean, we'll talk obviously about the Brentwood Business Partnership very soon, but just whilst we're on the subject of the Chamber of Commerce, what would you see as the main role of the Chamber of Commerce, certainly from your time as Secretary or Chief Executive?
Well, I think as I've characterized the difference, some people ask what is the difference between the Chamber of Commerce and BBP. I'll give it its short name, Brentwood Business Partnership. The Chamber is there to help individual members prosper. And I think the networking events are absolutely great, and it gives people connectivity and ability to do more business. BBP, on the other hand, is there to help businesses, but through creating a prosperous economic environment. So it's got a different angle. We're attacking the same issue from different angles, but we have the same aim, and that is to help businesses.
I must say, Mike, that's a very, very good description, a very simple way of differentiating between the two. Yeah, as you say, so the Chamber exists to help individual businesses, whereas the business partnership, which is what you're the chairman of, exists to enhance the business environment in Brentwood.
Yes, that's right, yes.
And, okay.
Sorry, I was going to say it started off as the Brentwood Town Centre Partnership. Lots of towns have got Brentwood Town Centre Partnership, but it was very focused on the town centre. And Brandon Lewis, when he was leader of the council, he was also, of course, Northern Ireland Secretary these days, but he decided to create something called the Renaissance Group back in about 2008. Alan Cherry of Countryside Properties was the first chairman, and it was for the entire borough, actually. And so it developed, and I took over as chairman in 2017. And by then it needed a refresh. It needed a different way of looking at things, and it needed a new name. Hence it became not the Renaissance Group, but I was often referred to, because I was on that committee all that time, as Renaissance Man. Well, I'd love to have been Leonardo da Vinci, but no chance of that. So it did. A lot of people were involved in the discussions and the blue sky thinking that led to that change of aim and emphasis, including people like Kay Thurgood, who runs Sincerely Yours in Shenfield, has been a very active and staunch supporter of BBP, and is now the vice chairman, actually.
And so, in terms of, you mentioned it did focus initially on the town centre. Are you focusing more on Brentwood as a whole now, rather than just specifically the town centre?
Absolutely. BBP, of course, pre-pandemic, we were involved in running all sorts of events to try and attract people into the town, into the borough. And it's and we regard it really as Brentwood, Shenfield, and Ingatestone, the principal centres. And Ingatestone is very much involved these days. We have a couple of representatives. The way we organise it, we have what we call a board. It's kind of a committee, really, because there is no membership as fee. There's no membership fee for BBP. Everybody is de facto a member. It would be impossible to have a meeting with hundreds of people attending. So we break the areas up into a number of areas. Shenfield is 2, Upper and Lower Shenfield, and so on. And they have representatives called cluster leaders who speak for their particular area. And they get feedback from their members, as it were, and they report that back to the board.
And we meet, was it once every 6 weeks or so?
We meet every 6 weeks or so, but we also have interim sessions. For example, we spent a lot of time, you spent a lot of time actually, because we are delighted to say, on BBP as the Chamber representative. We have this reciprocal arrangement, as you say, between Chamber and BBP. And we jointly commissioned, along with the council, a report by Savills, a leading consultancy, into Brentwood. It's what it means to people, what its future might look like, and how to market it better. And we spent quite a lot of time on blue sky sessions there, workshops. The great Laurie Edmonds, who I think is on the call, actually is pivotal in arranging all that sort of thing. Because whilst you have, with Caroline and the office, the central administration, ours is run for us by the council, by the economic development team, and that's Phil Drain and Laurie, Nishat and their colleagues. So they're very good. And they organise all these sessions. And we've got some coming up now to look at what the next steps are going to be for Brentwood.
So exciting times ahead, hopefully.
Exciting times ahead, yes. Chamber, of course, is funded by subscriptions. Yeah. As I say, we don't have subscriptions as such. We used to get central funding. We used to get a grant from the council, but that dried up years ago. We had some legacy funding which enabled us to continue. We spend about 15,000 a year on events, and so we've been eating into that. And we were lucky to have 2 prominent local firms, T.E.'s Law, the solicitors, and Beresford's, the estate agents, as our principal sponsors. And so they've been able to keep us going. And I think BBP members do a good job actually in promoting the economic development of the town. Been a difficult year, to say the least, this last year. But both Chamber, I think, what you've been doing in Chamber has been great to keep the wheels of commerce going, and the BBP has been trying to do the same thing.
Mm. So just to clarify, then, your funding now comes from the sponsorship. You don't get any funding from the government or local authority anymore.
We don't. Sometimes when we're running events, there are pockets of money for funding that are available. For example, we are running a pop-up market. Going to be a big event around the Crown Street area in September. We're keeping our fingers crossed that all will be clear for that. It was put off last year. We're going to hope to attract hundreds and hundreds of people into the town centre, but we might get some money from the government's funding budget that in fact is available for kickstart for town centres. So we do get that sort of money, and Laurie and the team are very good at finding any such money, but basically it comes now from our sponsors.
Yeah. Okay. And any other events coming up that you've got besides the pop-up market?
Yes, we've got, we're doing the arts trail again this year, and that's quite popular. We run these events that attract families into the town centre. Traditionally, in the past, we've done the Shenfield Christmas Fair, the Shenfield Halloween Fair, and that attracts hundreds of people, families into the town centre, and that should benefit businesses. The same actually in Crown Street, but the Shenfield ones have been particularly successful in the past, and we hope they will be in the future. So we've got our eye on doing something like that in the winter. Ingatestone is planning something similar, hopefully by Christmas. Fingers crossed we will have the conditions that will enable us all to get back to something like normal.
Great. Okay, sounds good. And that's certainly very good for the businesses of Brentwood. And you know, we're happy to work with you as a chamber, and we find it's a very good relationship. Well, I suppose it's a three-way relationship, really. The Brentwood Borough Council, Brentwood Business Partnership, and Brentwood Chamber of Commerce all helping the business of Brentwood in various ways. And as you say, it does help the fact that you're on the Chamber of Commerce Committee. I'm on the Brentwood Business Partnership Committee. Laurie at the council was on the Chamber Committee. So I think we do have a very good close working relationship, which can only be good for the businesses of Brentwood. Yes,
I mean, represented on the Brentwood Business Partnership Board is also the Brentwood Centre was, and hopefully will be in the future. But FSB have a representative there as well now. We've got several councillors. We have the enforcement team, because of course enforcement is an issue. Done bad behaviour in the town centre that puts people off coming into Brentwood. We've been fortunate that crime levels have not been as high here as in the past. We want to keep it that way. TOWIE, of course, is something that Brentwood has been associated with in the past. I don't turn my nose up at that. That brought a lot of business in. I know that's beginning to trail off a bit, but we want to make Brentwood known for more than just TOWIE. We want it to become known across the country.
So coming back to yourself, Mike, and more about Mike Hawkins, I know there's a couple things you haven't mentioned yet. One is that you're, I believe, involved with Brentwood Theatre, and also you're involved with one of the Rotary clubs in Brentwood, aren't you?
Well, I am, yes. And Brentwood Becket Rotary Club, in fact, is a member of Chamber. And one of my friends in that Rotary Club, Ivan Armstrong, has been extremely active, I think, in attending events and hopefully encouraging Chamber members to come and become members of our Rotary Club. We do a lot of, I think, good community work. We run the half marathon and fun run every year, which attracts about 4,000 entries and raises 60, 70, 80,000. In a good year can be even more than that, actually. An awful lot of money that goes into good causes. So yes, that's been, and I think you did a spotlight with one of my one of Rotary friends, that is Tony Clark.
Yes, right. Yeah.
I think that went quite well. So yes, there's that, and there's Brentwood Theatre. I was privileged to be asked to be its chairman a couple of years ago, and just shortly before the pandemic hit, of course. So it's been a testing time, but we've managed to get through it, and we are absolutely determined to come out of it stronger than stronger than before, if that's possible. We've been making improvements to the theatre, and we have further improvements planned, and we just want to encourage people. I always regarded it, when I was in Chamber, I always regarded it as a jewel in Brentwood's crown. Not every town's got a theatre, and it's a bit hidden where it is at the moment. Can't do much about that, but you know, we can give it a lot of publicity and encourage people to come along to events. It's a really well organised one. Ian Southgate is the theatre manager, and he also sits on BBP, and I think you know him.
Mm.
He's doing some very good work, especially now in trying to recover from the COVID lockdowns.
Yeah, I think if Brentwood Theatre survives COVID, then that's a major achievement for a small theatre like that to survive. It takes some doing, I'd imagine. So congratulations to you. Well,
yes, we've had to rely, of course, quite a bit on donations. There was a crowdfunding effort just few months ago, which was very successful. And there are a lot of people in Brentwood who are very proud of the fact that we have the theatre and want to support it. So it was amazing how much money was made available. And in fact, the target was to raise £15,000, and that was reached actually. So that's a considerable achievement. But BBP, the theatre is very much a part of BBP. I mentioned the arts trail. The theatre will be involved in the arts trail. And there's something else that I haven't yet mentioned. It's the safari trail, and that's taking place next month in June. There's going to be giant bears and giraffes, gorillas, crocodiles, lions, hippos, parrots, all these things dotted around the borough. And of course, that will encourage children to come along and therefore families to come in. And the whole idea is to get a buzz going. One of the things I've been worried about recently is the introduction by the government of relaxed planning laws. I know what the objective is, and you can't but support that, which is to get more affordable housing. That's great. But the relaxation means that the council don't quite have the control that they've had in the past. We had a meeting with our MP, Alex Burghardt, just a few weeks ago, to point out that there is a danger that our high streets will start to become developed into housing. Now, mixed use is fine, but we don't want them to become giant housing estates. Nobody will want to visit giant housing estates. So that's a problem that is going through Parliament even as we speak, actually.
And that's a good example of how the BBP and indeed the Chamber can interact with our local MP and indeed other politicians to try and bring about change, or certainly to give them some feedback as to what the view is on the streets of Brentwood about how the government policy can influence businesses. And it's very important that they know those sort of things.
Well, yes, just like Chamber, the strength of business is in our getting together. So we do quite a lot of lobbying on behalf of the business community, as does Chamber. And of course, it's much more powerful, that voice coming from an organization like Chamber or like BBP than for individual members. They count, of course, but when you've got them collectively coming together saying, government has got to listen. We're lucky in that the local council, led by Chris Hossack, they're very supportive, actually. We've got the representatives from the local council on BBP board. You have on the Chamber of Commerce. They're very supportive of the business community, and that's a good thing. But we can't stop. We can't stop lobbying for the things that really interest our members and concern our members.
So, Mike, one final question for you. I know you're a keen golfer. I'm just wondering, when on earth do you find time to play golf?
Well, I'm a keen golfer. The way I characterize it, I think the course wins more often than I do. But I do find it good exercise, actually. When you, it's about 5 miles round on a golf course, and but if you hit the ball a bit off cue, as most of my group that meet on a Tuesday do, it's probably more like 6 miles.
Yeah.
It's good exercise, gets you out in the fresh air, you meet other people. We've been able to do it actually after the relaxation of the first lockdown, as long as you were doing it socially distanced and in pairs and so on. So I'd recommend it to anybody. It's a frustrating game because you think you've got the hang of it, mastered it, and things are going wonderfully, and all of a sudden it blows up in front of your face. So I think it's a great game anyway.
Good. Right, okay, Mike. Well, thanks very much for joining us this morning. It's been a fascinating conversation, as I expected it would be, but I think we managed to certainly get a glimpse of your life and your current life and your history, and find out a little bit about Brentwood Business Partnership. Just a reminder to those who maybe didn't join us right at the beginning, we will be uploading this webinar to the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel, where you can view it along with all the previous Meet the Member Spotlight webinars. Also, just probably should mention whilst I'm on here that Brentwood Chamber of Commerce live events are gradually kicking back in. We've already started running our monthly lunchtime event at the Terrace Bar in Brentwood, and we are hoping from July, subject to government approval, we are hoping to reintroduce our real life business breakfasts at Mary Green Manor. And of course, the member spotlight actually was introduced during lockdown as a way of sort of replacing the fact that we could no longer do a meet the members events where we used to go to members' premises. But again, hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to start doing that again. Indeed, if any of you have got premises where we could perhaps meet outside in the next 2 or 3 months, that might be a feasible option. So do let us know. So all that remains really is for me to thank you very much for joining us today. And most important of all, thank you, Mike, for joining us. It's been very interesting and enjoyable. Hope you've enjoyed it. And actually, I guess I'll see you later on this evening at the Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee meeting. So thanks all very much. We don't actually have anyone slotted in for July yet, but if you are interested in filling the spot in July, then do let us know. So thank you to all of you and see you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Colin. Bye-bye.
Bye.